What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the betting booth. Zach Barron, Jared Sandler. Zach's going to be on here any second. We'll go over our Week 15 picks. Zach went 2-1. I went 1-2. So after winning a couple weeks, Zach got me here in Week 15, and we'll give you our picks for Week 16. We got some interesting situations when you get to this point of the season. One of the things you've got to consider, and we kind of talked about it a little bit last week, you've got teams that are playing for a lot, and you got teams that are playing for nothing. But it's not a binary deal. And even within those boxes, there are a lot of different ways to interpret, right? A team that's playing for a lot might press, right? Might be a team that presses and they get off to slow starts. I know a lot of people like playing first half unders, for teams that are playing for a lot, especially when it's two teams who are playing for a lot. You got teams that are playing for nothing. As we bring Zach in, Zach and I talked about it last week. A team that's playing for nothing, who's been playing for nothing for several weeks, could be better positioned, mentally ready to compete compared to a team that just had their season go by the wayside. So the Saints, for instance, they haven't been playing for anything pretty much all year, but they've been competing really well, and they've been making some people money who have played their side. And then you get, now the Chiefs are a unique example because they obviously lost Patrick Mahomes, but their season's done now. And then you get teams that are playing picks. Every once in a while you have the Texans who, they end up winning a game they're not supposed to, like a few years ago. But a lot of times teams understand the assignment, or at least coaches do. So a lot of different things to consider. And we're going to break down our picks in Week 16, and I'm sure that's a part of the thought process as we bring Zach in. Zach, before you got in, I shared with everyone that you were the winner from Week 15 going so you will have control of the board. Before we get into our picks, though, I wanted to turn the clock back. So I was playing NCAA football with my nephew, Matthew. We play a dynasty together, and we played in the playoffs, and I beat him yet again. I think I'm like 5-0 against him. It's really the only reason I play because he gets fired up, and it's a cool thing I get to do with him. But do you remember growing up playing video games together? Because one of the things I most remember is that if you lost, you would be in such a pissy mood for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I was such a sore loser. Still a little bit of a sore loser in certain areas of my life. Like when I lose in poker, I don't take it out on anybody else, but I take my losses pretty hard. But when I was a kid, if I lost in video games, if I lost in ping pong to my dad, I'd throw the paddle. I was not a good loser as a kid. But yeah, I remember those battles. I remember the creative player on there, and I would spend hours creating a team, creating a player that had 99 across the board, and could just do whatever. But those games were. I was so mad when NCAA had that period of time where it didn't exist, because that NCAA game was amazing. I don't really play video games anymore, but used to be obsessed. Yeah, I remember those battles. Sounds like you give 0 inches to your nephew, so you don't take it easy on him at all.
I don't, because he is the biggest S talker, but he's like we were at that age. He'll onside kick when he shouldn't onside kick. He'll go for it on fourth down when he shouldn't. And we used to do all that stuff, but
there's still certain plays that are just unstoppable. It used to be the toss sweep in those games was you just couldn't stop it. And then there was fullback dive. I remember was a play you just always get 5 yards, fullback dive.
So it's funny. Fullback dive is 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, even 4th and 2. I feel like fullback dive is pretty automatic.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are a few plays where it's unless you know the play's coming, it's really tough to stop.
Right.
Especially now that you got option, RPO type things. But it's fun. It's I don't know. It's a cool thing. Yeah, I don't play very much unless it's something tied to him. But it keeps me young. Yeah.
Who's your team? Do you play with USC, or you just
No? So we did a dynasty, as my eyes are watering here, and I forgot. He started with Rutgers. We had to start with crappy programs. He started with Rutgers. Did I start with North Texas? I started with some crappy program. I've been BYU for a while. He's been Nebraska. We both just accepted new jobs. I'm now going to be taking over as the head coach of LSU, and he's going to go to Tennessee. So we're going to have some SEC battles here coming up in subsequent NCAA seasons.
BYU, interesting choice.
Yeah. I wanted to explore my religious horizons.
The Fighting Mormons, yeah.
Yeah, I figured if Jake Retzlaff could be the quarterback there for a year, then Charlie Cooper, that's the name of my head coach. He could be the head coach there. But
still relevant, Retzlaff. Still relevant.
Relevant, yeah. Going to be relevant this weekend. Maybe we'll get into a little college football at the end. But let's go over Week 15. So, like I said, you went 2-1. I went 1-2. You hit on New Orleans +3. And you hit on Buffalo laying a point and a comeback that I'm sure you didn't sweat for 1 second, down 21 to the Patriots. I missed on the Chiefs, and I've missed on the Chiefs now multiple times. I got them. We played it at 5.5, and I just thought, hey, they're just not going to go down that easily, and they kind of did. It just was not a great showing. Green Bay -2. I missed on that. I'm not sure if that was the wrong read. It was a totally different ball game once Micah and Christian Watson got hurt. But at the end of the day, it lost that one. And then I hit on Philadelphia, which oddly was the one I had the least amount of confidence in, but cleared that one easily. That one was like smooth sailing from the first quarter. So that was the only one that I hit. Collectively, we went 3-3. Interesting weekend.
No, 4-2. 4-2.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, because I went 1-2. You went 2-1.
3-1. I went 3-0.
Oh, did the Rams do? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. You went 3-0 with the Rams.
Come on, man.
Right. Yeah. My bad.
We're rocking 3-0, baby.
Yeah. You had the Rams. Another game, another comeback. You had a couple of comebacks there.
Yeah. I was very fortunate to go 3-0, and you were unfortunate to go 1-2. It's funny. I was at my niece's birthday for the first half of the game, so I was watching, just following along on my phone, and I saw 21-0 in the Patriots game. The Rams were down by 10, and I think the Saints were down by 10 also. So all three games that I won on were double-digit deficits. I'm pretty sure the Saints were down by 10 at some point in that game, and then they all flipped in the second half. The Saints flipped at the end. So the witching hour for me was just a sick run to get back all those games. I felt good about the Rams the whole game, even with the Lions up. The Bills was the one where just ran good. I texted you. I mean, it's a weird thing when we do the show, because we want to do the show early enough when we give people picks so they can get it in on a good number. But there are games that, even the Packers game, I felt good about it when you took it. I was a line, and then I texted you Sunday morning, not really feeling good about the line movement. I'm going to stay away. So there is some, when we do the show strategy of, we might like something on Thursday a little bit, but it might change by Sunday just based on what things that are happening with the line movement, injuries, whatever. I still think the Packers were the right side. Like you said, if Mike and Watson don't go out, that game's probably completely different. The Chiefs won. I mean, the Sharps have lost so much money on the Chiefs the whole year. It's pretty insane. And now the dragon has been slain, end boss of the league. Now with Mahomes out, I think it's going to be dark times for the Chiefs for a minute. They haven't drafted well recently. I don't really see what their future is next year. Kelsey retiring, most likely. I mean, so it was an odd week for them. And got to mention the Tyler Shuck on the Saints win. I mentioned it 200-1 last week, MVP. And I mentioned the track for him to get it. 16-1 this week.
Moving up.
So we got some value on the Tyler Shuck love. He's still probably not going to win, but now Travion Henderson, after that big week, is the favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. But it's changing week to week. You get another good Tyler Shuck performance this week. Could be 5-1 next week. So,
no one's, and it's probably because I got such a slow start, and this is not something we need to dive into now, but maybe Kellen Moore deserves some credit. That's not a good team. They were not put in any type of position to win, but we talked about earlier. We won, and this was before we started doing this, but when we were texting, won some money even on Spencer Rattler, just because the Saints have competed all year. They're 4-10 because they're just not good. Because they're one of these teams where there's a quit factor. You look at their losses, they lost to Arizona before Arizona sucked. They lost to San Francisco before things got wonky there. Although San Francisco's actually pretty impressive what's come of that team. Seattle, Buffalo, New England, Chicago, Tampa Bay, the Rams. The bad loss for New Orleans, I guess, is at Miami, just because Miami's not good. But it's not like they're losing games to bad teams. And I think Kellen Moore's done a good job, and obviously Tyler Shuck, since they put him in command, he's done a really nice job as well.
Yeah, I mean, you compare them to a team like the Jets, who probably have the same talent level across the board as the Saints, and the Jets are a mess, a joke. They don't know who they're starting at quarterback week to week. If you've been betting the Jets the whole year, you've been losing money. But the Saints, we've been making money on because they, like you said, they come out and play hard for Kellen Moore, and it doesn't look pretty, so nobody wants to bet on them. They have a bend but don't break defense, and their offense isn't pretty, but they're covering, and so nobody really wants to bet on them. We love teams that nobody wants to bet on who are covering week to week. So made some money with the Saints. This is a weird week for the Saints. I'm probably not going to have that in my 3 on either side because I'm definitely not betting the Jets. But now that they're a favorite of like 5, might be time to come off the Saints this week. Don't like either side because I'm not going to bet the Saints at that big of a favorite, and I'm not. I don't know what Arian Glenn is saying week to week or who they're rolling out at quarterback. I'm probably going to stay away, but the Saints have been good to us.
Yeah. All right, so week 16, I'm sure this is going to be a part of our analysis. I touched on it at the very beginning. And by the way, if you're watching this, you can subscribe or like. This is, if you're listening to this on Spotify, I would appreciate if you followed or whatever you do to the show there, and rated and all those fun things. But at the beginning, Zach, I talked about how we're in that territory where, from a prop standpoint, you got players trying to reach incentives. That's always something that you can kind of take note of. Vegas does as well, so you'll see it baked into the lines. But then just from a team standpoint, you got to understand where different teams are. Some teams are playing for everything. Some teams are playing for nothing. Some teams just had their season taken away from them. Other teams just got new life. Like I know one thing that a lot of people will talk about is when you have 2 teams that are playing for a lot, first half unders, because sometimes teams press when they're in that spot. It doesn't automatically mean that a team playing for a lot and a team playing for nothing is going to result in the team playing for a lot covering by any means, but it's important to know all those things. So I don't know if that comes into play with any of your picks today, and we'll see which ones fall into my lap since you have first pick on the board. But where are you going to start here with week 16? And we'll even include if you want to play tonight's game, we'll do that as a bonus because a lot of people.
I was going to say we should talk about tonight's game just because it's such a good game. I'm not sure it's going to make it in my 3. I do have some thoughts on the game, but it wasn't where I was going to start with my number 1 pick. So I don't know if you want to do that first or save that for the end.
Yeah, let's. I guess let's quickly do that. We'll. Okay. Yeah, and what's the update? Is weather going to be a part of tonight's game?
I'm hearing that weather is going to be a part. Let's do a quick weather reporting here on the betting booth.
In this game, by the way, Seattle and Los Angeles, you got 2 of the best teams in the NFL. Maybe depending on who you ask, the 2 foremost Super Bowl contenders in the NFC, especially with the Packers injuries. The game's in Seattle. It's the Thursday night game. And the line's had a little movement. I'm seeing it right now. It's Seattle lane 1.5. I don't know what you're seeing in various books.
Yeah, the line has moved a full 3 points. This line opened at Rams by 1.5. I think with the Devontae news and some sharp money coming in on Seattle, this line has moved a full 3 points. So 60% chance of rain up until about 7 p.m. And then it looks like the rain is going to cool off a bit. Don't really know. We're not weather reporters. Looks like there's going to be some wind in the game. So maybe some elements in the game, maybe not as much as we thought early in the week. But the Sharps, everybody I talk to loves Seattle in this spot. It's a Seattle spot with the line moving towards them, money coming in on them, some public money coming in on them. On paper, you have a short week. You have rain, potential rain or weather, the Devontae injury. The Rams' flight got delayed, apparently, coming to Seattle. So everything points to the Seahawks being sharp, but I might be biased. I've made so much money on this Rams team the entire year. They're my number 1 power-rated team in the NFL. I think all the elements of a game that has weather that might have elements actually points to the Rams. They run the ball better than Seattle. They have those big 13 personnel with 3 tight ends. They're still going to have Kyron and Corm running the ball. They still have Puka, no matter what he's saying in the media this week. I didn't think of him as this kind of diva wide receiver, but he's
heading
he
that
said some
direction.
interesting things in the media this week. I gave the stat last week. McVay's 16-3 ATS in the month of December. Now 17-3. We played him last week against the Lions. So now 17-3 ATS in the month of December. McVay on a short week has a great record against the spread. And now I'm hearing both public and the Sharps liking this Seattle team. Again, I might be biased, but I'm going to keep rolling with what's been making me money. So I like the Rams. I'm going to wait. I got 1.5 now. If I can get even a better number with how much money coming on Seattle, I'll wait. But I'm going to keep rolling with Old Faithful. I know Devontae's a big loss, but I still think that offense with the running backs, with the tight ends, with Puka should still be okay, even without Devontae.
Yeah, I did something yesterday. The 5 teams I think are most likely to win the Super Bowl. Not necessarily not the 5 best teams right now, because I didn't put New England in there, and maybe it's tough to leave them out. But the 5 teams I think are best positioned to win the Super Bowl, and I have the Rams number 1. And I bring that up because you talk about the Devontae loss. There's no doubt. I mean, in the red zone, Devontae's been a horse for them, but they can beat you in so many different ways. They've got multiple receiving threats, and then even without Devontae, they still have arguably a top 5 receiver in the NFL. You got multiple tight end threats. You got now multiple running backs. I mean, what Kyron and Blake Corum have done together has been really, really impressive. And then you got the MVP at quarterback. And so I don't know what's going to happen tonight, obviously. I still think it would be really tough for me to believe that Seattle's the better team than the Rams, even if Seattle wins. But I'll tell you this, the reason I like, your Rams lean, Sam Darnold hasn't been playing that well. And at the end of the day, in an evenly matched game, and this is not always the deciding factor when you're playing in Vegas or anything, but you got one quarterback that's really good and one quarterback who's been really good overall this year, but now back-to-back years is starting to decline when the month turns to December. I don't know. I want to see more, because it's not like Seattle is loaded with weapons the way that the Rams are, right? They got JSN. Their running game hasn't been very good. Their passing game's been good, but it's been largely carried on JSN's shoulders. And so I just don't know that they've got enough to bail out Sam Darnold if he's not playing a great game. Whereas, and the other thing too is, the last thing I'll say on this, not that Mike McDonald is not a good coach, but again, I'd give Sean McVay offensively the edge there, right? I don't think that's a question. So I like the Rams. I'm surprised where the money is. You got to respect, what the Sharps are doing here, but I'm not loading up by any means, but if the Rams are getting points, I like that spot.
Yeah, the better team getting points. And Darnold's been good in his career against zone, but for whatever reason, McVay's zone gives him problems. He's 1-4 against the spread against McVay in his career. You saw the game early this year. He threw 4 picks in that game, which was really the difference in the game. It's hard to beat a team twice in the same year, but you're giving us points with the better team here. I thought, the rain may affect Stafford, especially if it's not raining. We got the better quarterback. We got the better overall team. I'll take my chances with the Rams getting points. So,
yeah. All right. Well, that'll be a fun one tonight. All right. Let's get into not just Sunday, but we got Saturday, Sunday, and then, of course, a Monday night game. You control the board. You have first pick. We'll pick 3 aside. Where are you going first?
Okay. I'm going to go with the one I think you're most likely to take. And I could be wrong on this, but I'm going to take the Lions by 7 over the Steelers. And we've been on the right side of this Lions team the whole year. They've been seesawing. I say it every week. When they win, the next week they're bad against the spread. When they lose, they're amazing against the spread the next week. Goff and Campbell, 23-9 off a loss. Since 2022 now, 14-1 against the spread after a loss. We faded them last week. I took the Rams. They came off a big win against the Cowboys. We covered with the Rams. This week, They're coming off a loss. We'll take them. Rodgers, I got to give him credit. I said on here I thought he was done. He's looked okay the last couple of weeks. He's looked serviceable, but he's played the Baltimore defense, which we thought Baltimore should have won that game. They got that touchdown taken away. Rodgers didn't really do much in that game. It was really they just stayed in with their defense, and Lamar didn't look like himself. And then they played the Dolphins, who have no pass rush. So the Lions' defense is their weakness. Their secondary is their weakness. But up front, they should be able to get some pressure on Rodgers, which if you can get pressure on Rodgers, he's just a statue back there. So the Steelers are the public side now, leading their division. Rodgers looking better. We say all these things about Tomlin as a dog. So the public's coming in on the Steelers because they've won a couple games. But we've been on the right side of the seesaw with the Lions. I see a track meet here, and I see the Lions being able to – I don't think the Steelers can, compare to the Lions offense. And I think they run them out of the building here. So 7's a lot, but indoors, this Lions team coming off a loss, I think it's a really good spot for us. So we'll take the Lions laying the points.
Yeah, I don't know if that was going to be my first pick. There wasn't one like definitive, like this has to be my first pick, but that was a pick. And I actually played it earlier this week at 6.5, and I would still play it at 7. Another thing, yeah, you're right. Aaron Rodgers has played better. He's still, I think I shared this a couple weeks ago. He's had the highest percent. Maybe it's changed because I don't track the updated number here, but I think through week 14, he had the highest percentage of passing yards that have come after the catch since AJ Feely like 15 years ago, which is simply to say like he's not throwing the ball downfield effectively. Well, where has Detroit been vulnerable? What was one of the things we talked about in that Rams Lions game? Well, they're so banged up. They're now, without Brian Branch, and their secondary's beat up and all this stuff. But I just don't think Pittsburgh's built to take advantage of it the way other teams are. So I really do like this. This is a play that, I line up with you on. I think for my first pick, this is risky because I'm picking a bad team. But I think they're better than what they're getting credit for here, and that's the Giants.
Yeah, that's the one I thought you weren't going to take.
Yeah, no, I love the Giants here. And I checked, and tell me if I'm wrong. It seems like there's a ton of public favor with the Vikings, but a lot more on the sharp side with the Giants.
Right.
It boils down to this. Minnesota just beat the Cowboys on primetime. We've talked about the primetime effect. We've talked about beating the Cowboys and how that changes public perception. And then when you do it in a primetime matchup, even more so. J.J. McCarthy looked good, but he looked good against a really bad Dallas defense. And while the Giants don't have the steel curtain by any means, they can rush the passer, and it's J.J. McCarthy on the road. I know that the Vikings were on the road last week, but just being on the road indoors against a really bad defense is a lot different than being on the road in the elements against the Giants. I know McCarthy played at Michigan. It's not that I don't think he can handle the elements, but doing it in college versus in the NFL with NFL talent is a little bit different. And plus, I just don't think the Vikings are that good either. And I actually think the Giants Giants aren't good. They're trending right now towards the first pick in the draft, but their offense can do stuff. They can move the ball a little bit. They've got, with Wandale and Darius Slayton, and Theo Johnson, they've got some guys that can catch the ball. We've seen Jackson Dart, who hasn't played as well the last couple of weeks, but he's not bad. And I think the Giants getting a full 3 from the Vikings on the road with a rookie quarterback, I don't see it. This is a surprising one to me that the Giants are that it's even gotten to a full 3. Not a fan of that number if I'm playing the Vikings, and I'm not. I love this for the Giants. So that's my first pick.
You keep snagging my picks. This is the same thing as last week. It actually didn't work out for you last week.
Yeah, the picks I took of yours, I lost.
Maybe. This was actually going to be my number 1, but I didn't think you were going to take it. So I was going to take it number 2. But 2 weeks ago, we were talking about JJ as like being out of the league potentially, like what they were going to do, not out of the league, but as a backup, and like what the Vikings were going to do at quarterback going forward. And now 2 weeks later, we make him a favorite on the road in the cold on grass is pretty crazy. There's all these interesting splits about teams that following playing Dallas this year. And again, how much you want to read into these stats or how much they matter. But I think there is something to playing a primetime game, and usually the Dallas is playing a primetime game. And then what you do the following week, teams that have played Dallas this year on the road, played Dallas, and then the next game on the road, 0-6 against the spread following a cover.
How about that?
So they're failing to cover by 11 points a game, 0-6 against the spread after Dallas. So playing a primetime game, emotional game, big game for JJ on Monday night. They lose. Was it Monday night or Sunday night?
Sunday night.
Sunday night. And now you go on the road and they make you a favorite. Like you said, the public's coming in on Minnesota, but there's a lot of sharp money coming on the Giants. So more of the money's coming on the Giants here. But the same thing I said for Rodgers is true for JJ. He's playing a team with a pass rush. The Giants defense hasn't been that good, but their one strength of their defense is up front.
Yep.
You get pressure on JJ, make him roll outside the pocket and make decisions. That's where he makes mistakes. So I still trust Dart over JJ. Like this spot for the Giants, fully align with you here, especially if you can get the 3. The 3 is really important. Still seeing some 2.5s and some 3s. So if you can get the 3, I would take the Giants there.
Yeah, I like that. All right, your next play.
I'm going to stay away from this KC-Tennessee game because I had a pick on it. I don't want to give that to the fans because I don't want them to force them to watch that game.
Yeah.
So we are going to go, man, it's between 2. We're going to go with the Cowboys.
Oh.
The Dallas Cowboys, who I've been off of these last couple weeks correctly. Now, finally, it's the same old story with the Cowboys. When the public likes them, you fade them. When the public comes off of them, you bet them. The public has come off of them. And I've given stats on here. Herbert as a dog has an amazing record against the spread. He's covered the last 2 weeks as a dog. He's a dog here again. But this is a good spot for the Cowboys. If you watch the Chargers' last 2 games, they played the Eagles. They had 5 turnovers. The Eagles had 5 turnovers in that game. The Chargers barely won. Then they play a Chiefs team who we liked last week, but they're not the same Chiefs team. They have no offensive line. Spags' defense is not what it used to be. It's not the same Chiefs team. So now the Chargers have won a couple weeks in a row. The public's coming on them. And now you get this line. You're like, how could the Cowboys be favored here? Money pouring in on the Chargers. The line moved today from Cowboys by point, and now I'm seeing Cowboys by 2. So the book's telling me that the Cowboys are the right side. Dak is good in back-to-back home games. Interesting stat here. Last 15 back-to-back home games in the second game of the back-to-back, 13-2 straight up Dak. So they played 2 straight home games. They lost, now coming in the back-to-back, 13-2 in this exact spot. So this is a Cowboys number. We just got embarrassed in prime time. Love this number for the Cowboys. And the Chargers are a playoff team and the Cowboys are not, but the number's telling me this is a Cowboys spot. So we'll take the sharp side here and roll with the Cowboys.
I think when I saw this line, I initially was in favor of playing the Chargers, but yeah, I think, you presented some of the reasoning as to why I flipped on this. And first of all, understanding the flow of money certainly plays a part, but you mentioned the Chargers line. They might have the worst offensive line in the NFL, and it's injury based, right? Again, we talked about no Rashawn Slater, no Joe Alt, and not that AT&T Stadium is the loudest place in the world or anything, but typically bad lines don't get better when they're on the road. And I don't know what to make of this Cowboys defense. They're not good. Sometimes I think they've got some strengths in this direction or that direction. But I think this is a perfect spot to fade the Chargers. They just came off, like you said, they came off that win against the Chiefs. Even though they didn't look amazing, they beat the Eagles. It seems like a lot of people are riding high with the Chargers. So I don't know if this was going to be one of my plays, but I definitely like this side. So if I were to play anything, I think I would play the Cowboys. So that's I like that pick, and I like that breakdown too. I think it's important to understand some of the details and things like what you said. back-to-back home games for Dak, and how that plays a role, because this stuff does matter. Like, it seems, again, these guys aren't robots. They don't just wake up and do whatever the odds say they're going to do. They're external factors that play a role in how this happens, how that happens. And what's interesting too, this is a team, the Cowboys team, that they probably aren't playing for anything anymore. I don't know that they've been mathematically eliminated, but they're pretty close, and they certainly don't control their destiny. But a team that, like you said, whenever you think they're going to zig, they tend to zag, and this would be a spot for that. All right, I don't know where I'm going to go with my next one. I'm not sure. I'm going to wait to see if you have a play in this Bears-Packers game, because I keep going back and forth on this. If you don't, then I probably will, because it is a big game, and people are going to be watching that. I was unconventional last week taking the Eagles. I'm thinking about them, but I kind of want to go back to the New Orleans Saints, and I think I will. I know you said you're going to stay away, so I don't think this is a play you'd make. But I like the Saints here, Zach. Am I going to play them? I'm deciding between the Saints. I would have played the Texans if the number was under 14. I actually am curious. The Raiders are not out of play for me here at 14.5. And I also kind of like the Ravens. I'm going to play the Ravens. I'll do that.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll play the Ravens. I think you could say with New England, hey, this is a perfect bounce back spot. And, the Ravens are laying 3. The Patriots are getting 3. So the Patriots don't even have to win. I know Baltimore hasn't looked as sharp as, we would have thought. I do think Drake May is really good. And New England's good against the run, right? They that if there is a strength of theirs, it is against the run. But I just there's something about this Ravens team. I think this is a spot for them. We've talked about New England. They haven't played a whole lot of anyone right now. Credit to them. They've won games that they're supposed to win, and that's why they are where they are. And they've won games that maybe, before we respected them, we didn't think they were going to win. They're 11-3. The Ravens need this. Like, this is a huge game for the Ravens. They are still because they lost to the Steelers. They're still fighting for the division. They are a game back of Pittsburgh. They can set up a winner go home for the AFC North game in Week 18, depending on if Pittsburgh loses and Baltimore wins. Then next week doesn't matter for either team, because they're going to play each other in Week 18. Baltimore plays the Packers next week. So it probably behooves them to take care of business as opposed to having to do so on the road in Green Bay. I just think that you've got the Patriots playing another good quarterback. They have not done this a lot, and there's something about this that just seems icky. The Patriots getting 3 points, it just screams like Vegas wants you to take this. And I just don't know that I can. So I'm going to go with Baltimore. I like Baltimore in this one, laying 3. That's a pretty big number given the record and the circumstance. But I'm going to go with my gut like I did with Philly last week. And my gut's telling me I got to take the Ravens.
I like it. I'm pretty torn on this game. When I looked at the number, it's a Ravens spot. Like you said, it's an icky line. 3, the Patriots, a more complete team, but a much better record. I was really surprised to hear like Sharps coming in on this Patriots team. So originally I was like, this is definitely going to be a slam dunk. And now the more people I talk to and see the money coming in, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I had this game read wrong. But the reason we faded the Patriots last week, Josh Allen against Drake May was bad in that second half. When every time he dropped back to pass on third down, I was like, please throw the ball. Like, don't hand it to Travion. Don't do anything else. Like, I feel fine with Drake May in that second half. So it was a really big spot for him, and he didn't come out big. Does that mean he's not going to be good in the clutch in other games? Maybe not, but I think there's something from that. Vrabel has been really good coming off losses in his coaching career. So there's a little bit of, scared to be on the Ravens there because of Vrabel coming off a loss, getting his team fired up for this game. Lamar in his career has been amazing in night games. He's like 20-5 in night games, but this year he's been really bad. He's lost like every primetime game this year, I think, except one. So I do think the Patriots are the more complete team. I don't know what exactly is wrong with this Ravens team. I think we may find out like Lamar has some sort of injury, or he just doesn't look fully like himself still. He's not running the ball as much as he usually does. Doesn't look like a Lamar of old right now. So right now, a stay away from me. If I was going to take a side, it'd be the Ravens just because of the number. The number makes me want to take the Ravens. I got to give a shout out to my buddy Will, professional poker player. I'm playing him in the fantasy playoffs this year, and he's got a Ravens stack in my biggest fantasy league, biggest payout, semifinals. He's got a Ravens stack. He's got Lamar, Derrick Henry, and Zay Flowers on his team.
Oh, wow.
Made a big trade in the middle of the year, and he just stacked it. And somehow he found his way into the playoffs, even though they haven't really performed that well these last few weeks.
It does seem like every time Lamar throws a touchdown pass, though, it is to Zay Flowers. So.
Yeah, it is Zay Flowers or Mark Andrews. So I will be kind of fading the Ravens in that way, but seems like a Ravens number. I'm going to wait and see what the books do with this number, especially if I can get it at 2.5. I'll probably take the Ravens or take a position on the money line. But yeah, really surprised to hear all these sharps liking the Patriots here. And I think it's a lot of just Vrabel love. So
yeah, it's an interesting, I think we'll learn a lot about the Ravens and whether or not, because one of the things of the NFL, it doesn't matter. Like we've seen teams play with their food at points and then they get together at the right time. And I think this will be a big week to understand, like, who is this Ravens team legit, or do they just have some really good players who we think highly of, but they're going to be a relatively easy out come playoff time if in fact they make the playoffs?
Yeah. The concern with the Ravens, and it's the same, one of the reasons I like the Lions so much against the Steelers this week, is most likely their season is going to come down to that last game of the year.
Yeah.
Most likely that game, unless the Steelers somehow, I don't think the Steelers are going to beat the Lions this week. So that's an L. Most likely, unless the Steelers are up by 2 games, the Ravens-Steelers game the last week of the year is going to determine that division if they go to the playoffs. So there could be some concern. Are they looking ahead? But it's a primetime night game. So I think the Ravens show up. I don't know. The number is a little strange. So I'm gonna wait on it. You mentioned the game that I'm probably going to take next, and let me just confirm. I feel like I mentioned like 7 different games before I said we did mention a bunch of games. I told you I won't be on the Saints game. I'm not.
Yep.
I'm not messing with that game. I do like Carolina. I've liked Carolina as a dog the whole year. I told you the splits on Bryce Young last week, 0-11 in his career as a favorite, now 0-12 as a favorite. Straight up and against the spread. So now he's a dog again. We probably just blindly bet the Panthers, and it's probably the right side, even though Tampa has all their guys back. Getting 3 seems like a nice spot, but that's not going to be my pick on here. I can't believe I'm doing it. I can't believe I'm going back. The team that has cost me the most money the whole year, the Las Vegas.
Yeah, there you go.
Raiders.
Do
14.5 is just a embarrassment. I mean, this line is, we didn't take Houston last week. We probably should have at that number against Arizona's defense, who's completely falling apart. But 14.5, I guess Vegas hasn't said who the quarterback is, and there is some thought process to taking the 14.5. And if they announce it's Geno, it'll probably go down to 13. Like they're not going to make the line. It's going to come down slightly if it's Geno over Kenny Pickett. I think it's going to be Kenny Pickett, but there is some word that it could be Geno. So there's the Vegas Raiders got shut out last week at the Eagles. And the team's coming off shutouts in the NFL. And again, like you said, these guys aren't robots. I throw these trends out, and you guys can say these trends don't matter. But the shutout trend is a real thing. Teams that got shut out the week before, who were embarrassed, this year 6-0 against the spread the next week. So this team got shut out. This team's a joke. You're scared they put on their coach. But 14.5 after a shutout. Houston looked good last week. I think CJ probably had his best game of the year. He looked in control of that offense, pushing the ball down the field. But 14.5 is just too much. And I'm probably going to have to be sweating this late in the game, coming down to some BS, but I'm going to take the value here against my better judgment. Again, the team that's cost me a lot of money this year because I just think there's value every time, but this number is egregious. So give me Vegas.
I like it. I think with 14.5, I think you have to. I don't know. I do think, I mentioned that I put out the 5 teams I think are most likely to win the Super Bowl. Not necessarily the 5 best teams, but the Texans are one of them because they don't have to be great offensively to win a game. Their defense is so good. But I just think, I don't know. I'm hoping, you talk about stack in one of my leagues. You were in the other one where I had the most points in the league by like 300, but somehow missed the playoffs. In the other league, I'm in the semis, and I've had a revolving quarterback door, and I'm rolling with C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins. I got a little bit of a stack there, but 14.5 that's a lot. That's a lot for a team that is not dynamic offensively, and so I like that. I think
I'm interested to hear your 5 teams on the Super Bowl because the AFC is so wide open that you could throw a lot of teams in the AFC out there because who do you trust in the AFC to make a run? Is it Denver? Is it the Patriots? Is it the Jags? I mean, these teams, if the Ravens get in the playoffs, all of a sudden, that team looks dangerous more than those other teams. I think the NFC has a lot more contenders, and I'm interested to hear if the Eagles are one of your 5.
They are. Yeah, I'll tell you my 5.
Like the Eagles, it's crazy. The Eagles are 10-1 to win the Super Bowl right now. I think maybe 10 or 12-1. Last year at this time, they were 10-1 at this time of year. And so everybody's saying all the problems and, all this stuff. They still talent across the board on that team. So, you put them in the right matchups in the playoffs, and they're definitely a team that can get there. I mean, if San Francisco, for example, was they're not a team that I would put in my Super Bowl contenders right now, but if they were in the AFC, I probably would, like a team like that, or Seattle, which probably is one of your 5, but the AFC is really who's going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl is really a crapshoot at this point.
Yeah. So my 5, and I did it in order, but like I'm not gonna argue a ton over the order with some of the teams. But I went the Rams, I went the Broncos, kind of similar principle with the Texans. I don't think Bo Nix needs to be great for them to win. I just think he needs to be good. And a lot of it's based on the possibility or the likelihood that you're going to have to go through play in Denver, and that's not easy. I did put the Seahawks in there, but that's the team that even though I didn't put them 5th, that I'm the shakiest on. And I think a part of the reason I put the Seahawks is I left out the Bears. I just can't trust them yet. I left out the Packers because of the injuries, and I might change my mind after this week, depending on how that game goes. And I felt like I needed another NFC team in because I did also put the Eagles. I put the Eagles in there for the same reason that you just shared, and then I also had the Texans, like I talked about. And you know what? That's a perfect segue because screw it, I'm going to take the Eagles. Yeah, I'll tell you, I thought about taking Cincy. I actually like Cincy before we learned of the Tua news when Cincy was lane 1, not 4.
Yeah, we should mention that because in a lot of contests and stuff, you can get Cincy at that number.
Yeah. And if you can,
I loved Cincy against Tua in that spot for like a 1.5, and you get Burrow off a loss after basically saying he hates football now.
Yeah.
And all this shit. Like he's going to come to play this week. But now like they moved it 3 points without Tua. Like you're saying Tua's worth 3 points.
Yeah, I don't like that. I thought about that one. I'll tell you, I thought about fading Josh Allen after a win in Cleveland, but you've said this over and over, and I'll say it now. I don't know that I want to put my money on Shedeur Sanders. That's tough. I said I would make a play on the Bears Packers. I'm not going to but let's talk about it afterwards. I'll play the Eagles. Now I played this earlier in the week at 6.5. I'll take it in our little game here at 7 because I think that's what you could get it at right now. You sort of mentioned it, like the way they've gone from A to B is maybe different. It has a different feel than last year, but they're still kind of in a similar spot. They're going to win their division, and so they're going to be positioned, pretty nicely in the postseason. I think it's a team that can, like, their game travels well. It's not a team that I don't think is built to win on the road or in tough conditions or indoor, any of that stuff. The one thing that gives me pause just long term is they don't do as well without Lane Johnson, and I don't know when they're going to get him back. But the Commanders aren't playing for anything, and they just look like they've got a bunch of give up in them. And I tend to think the Eagles are sort of hitting. They're starting to figure things out. Like, I know they just demolished a shitty team last week, but like, it's not easy to win a game 31-0 in the NFL. Like, that's not nothing to me. And I know they're going to be on the road, but again, doesn't bother me. They play outdoors anyway in general, at home. So I like the Eagles here. I don't know. The Commanders are going to be without Laramie Tunsil. They're a little bit beat up on their line. It seems like the Eagles offensively are starting to figure a little bit out. And then defensively, I just think they're really good. And, Marcus Mariota, Jaden Daniels, doesn't matter. It's going to be Mariota. Doesn't really matter to me. I just think I think so highly of that Philly defense that, I'll take Philly. Like I said, I got it at 6.5 earlier in this week. If it gets back to that, I would jump on that personally. But even at 7, I'll play it in our little game here. So.
Yeah, I faded the Eagles I didn't fade the Eagles. I didn't bet against them, but I didn't bet the Eagles last week, and you won there. I feel the same way about it this week. Like 90% of the bets coming in are on the Eagles, and it was almost the same last week, and you crushed that game. So I don't know. The Commanders have kind of been better with Marcus Mariota this year, and the Eagles do struggle with mobile quarterbacks if he can get out. You said Lane Johnson out. I don't think we're going to see Jalen Carter in this game for the Eagles as well. So, the questions are, how motivated will the Commanders be in this game? And then, are the Eagles fixed based on a blowout of one of the worst teams in the league? Do we think they're fixed now? So, I don't know. Hurts has been kind of bad against the division late in the year, 1-5 against the spread against division opponents since in December or later in his career, which is a strange stat. Not sure if it means anything, but maybe people undervalue him early in the year and then see, what kind of quarterback he is, and he's overvalued later in the year. But again, I do think Philly is a contender, and they should get right. The number, I know the sharps like Washington here. I'm sure we're going to see some sharp money coming out on Washington late. I saw the line move to 7 today on some books, so maybe you're on the right side. But
yeah, it's one of those. I just kind of think that they're trending in the right direction. You're right. Jalen Carter's out. They're going to have him sit another week, try to get his shoulder right. And they don't, I don't think they probably feel incentivized to play him this week, but we'll see. That's not going to be, it's a game that I'll watch because it's a Saturday standalone game before the Saturday Packers-Bears game. So neither of us played that, but I think, that's going to be a game of a lot of interest to folks. So the line opened at, depending on how far you want to look ahead, it changed significantly with the injuries. But the line opened, I think, at Chicago. Chicago getting 3. It's now Chicago getting 1.5. Here's my thought on this. The Packers are without Micah Parsons. They're not going to be without Christian Watson, it seems. And I don't want to say that Christian Watson is more important than Micah Parsons. He's not. And I think we'll get a sense of, just how much Micah Parsons means potentially. But this Green Bay offense just does not move the ball as well without Christian Watson. I don't think he is like a 1. Like I've been critical of the Packers receiving core, but I think he's a 1 for them. Like, if that makes sense. Like I would
X factor player for them.
So I think his health is huge. Caleb Williams doesn't get sacked a ton anyway. And it's not to say that it's sacks or nothing. Like, you can not sack a quarterback and still have a huge impact on their performance. And I do think that happened against the Bears a couple weeks ago. But in a weird way, like I think this is almost an okay matchup for them to not have Micah. And I do think I do think there's a little bit of motivation. Like, hey, we have some like Rashawn Gary and some of the other pass rushers that the Packers have. They're not that like one of the reasons why the people love the Packers defense is because of their depth. So Micah, obviously, him being out sucks, but Colby Wooden's been good, and Carl Brooks has been good, and Kingsley Anubara has been fine. Rashawn Gary's a really good player. So I just in some ways I don't know. Like I think there's almost like a little bit of too much of an overcorrection. But on the other hand, the Bears looked like a different team in the second half against the Packers. And I trust Ben. Like I think so highly of Ben Johnson, and give him a chance to face a defense twice. Like I don't like it for that defense. This is a Bears team that has done really well in close games. They're at home. They're not going to be. I think they're going to be pretty beat up with the receiving core with Dunze and Luther Burden. But again, I really trust Ben Johnson, and that's why I'm just so torn. Like I could convince myself on either side here. I'm curious what your thought is.
Yeah, when I saw this line initially, I was like, finally, I'm going to have a spot where I can take the Bears. Like I've been laying off them this whole time, fading them in certain spots, and I finally have a line where these injuries are the Packers. But the closer it gets to game time, the more I like the Packers.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. That's how I'm feeling. But I don't.
This feels like everybody I talk to likes the Bears. All the sharps like the Bears. The public likes the Bears. It's like Chicago's Super Bowl. Everybody's super pumped for this game. Finally, a time we're going to finally beat the Packers. This is the spot. And we talk about injuries. The Bears are without Odunze, and now Burden's not going to play, it looks like. And that's like Burden's a big piece. Like that's like his second receiver. I mean, especially with Odunze out. So now you have DJ Moore and Zacchaeus as your two guys. Like, that's a big loss for them. So the Packers aren't the only ones dealing with injuries. And I still, say what you want. I'd rather have Jordan Love than Caleb Williams right now. I think I know the Packers offense has been clunky, but come the big parts of the game management late in the game, I'd rather have Jordan Love than Caleb Williams. And I mean, like you said, Ben Johnson, second time playing a team. That's scary, but it's LaFleur's second time playing the Bears as well. And he's going to be schemed up for this game as well. So at a Packers favorite number, I was fine maybe taking a position on the Bears, but with the line flipped and all this Bears love that I'm hearing, I lean Packers. That's not going to be a big play for me. I'm excited to watch the game, but yeah, the closer it gets to game time, my finger is moving towards the Packers. It's the team I have more faith in this time of year until I see something different from this Bears-Packers matchup. Like, just keep going back to what's working. And that's really what I'm doing in most of these matchups. The Lions, we did the seesaw thing with them. The Cowboys, the same thing with the public love. The Raiders, okay, we maybe that's, there's no trends there. It's just it's the shutout trend. But with this, the Packers just own the Bears, and they made us money last time we played them again against the Bears. So I like the spot with being a dog here, and especially hearing about the injuries on the Bears side. So yeah, we didn't talk about Denver, Jacksonville, or really Carolina, Tampa Bay. Not that we have to, but those are some other crucial games this weekend. So I don't know what you think thoughts on Denver Jacksonville is. It's a weird one because you got a team in an 11-game win streak, and then you have the Jags that have won 5 straight and have also covered in all 5 of those games. So
I'll tell you what I think. I think that I've faded Denver a ton, and they've hosed me, and so I just don't know what to think. I feel like Denver's the right side here, but I don't have a strong feeling because actually both those teams, we talked about how like you just can't trust Trevor Lawrence, but maybe you can trust Liam Cohen. Maybe you don't have to worry about trusting Trevor Lawrence. Maybe you trust Liam Cohen. I mean, they've done a really nice job. I think I would lean Denver though. As of now, I'd like to see how things shape up, and I'll rely on that Zach Barron text morning of with the line movement here. But I think I'd lean Denver. I do think highly of this Denver team. it's just a matter of like, I think I had it locked in my head that Bo Nix was just total ass. And I'm still not convinced long-term he won't be, but this year he's been good. And
we were convinced that both these quarterbacks are total ass. I mean, I'm still not sold on Trevor Lawrence, even though he's had a few good weeks. If you watched the game last week, I mean, he was throwing to wide open receivers. I mean, most of the quarterbacks in the league could have had a decent game. But, I have given both these quarterbacks a lot of shit over the last couple of years, and I have to give – they're winning football games. I think the Jacoby Myers pickup for Jacksonville has been a huge success for that team and has really changed that offense, a security blanket, a possession receiver for Trevor Lawrence. So I think maybe I've undervalued this Jags team. I haven't really lost money on them throughout this year, but I haven't played them that often. And the pros I talk to like the Jags. Doesn't mean I'm going to be on the Jags. I don't know if I can trust Trevor Lawrence in Denver in the cold. And be sweating him, in Denver. But Denver, again, they've played no one really. They should have lost that Packers game we've already talked about most likely. 31st strength of schedule in the NFL. So haven't been tested a ton. I still don't really trust them in the playoffs. So it's a weird one. Two very similar teams. I leaned Denver initially, and the pros have kind of talked me off it, so kind of a wait and see for me.
And then you mentioned Panthers-Bucks. That's another big game. I know that there's a lot of sentiment that you fade. I think you mentioned it, right? You fade Bryce as a favorite. You ride him as a dog, and he's a 3-point dog. But I don't know. That's a tough one for me to get behind. I think for me, it's Tampa or just stay away. I don't. Yeah. I don't know that I can ride Bryce Young, and Tampa's offense is getting healthier, right? With Mike Evans back. I think that if I do play this one, and right now I think Tampa's lane 3, I think this is a Tampa or nothing for me.
Okay. I think Baker's, I know that's your boy. He's kind of been ass.
No, he hasn't been very good. You're right. He really hasn't
been very good. EPA since like week 7, 36th of 38 quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, that's no bueno.
That's no bueno. He threw a really crucial pick. I know that offense isn't the reason they lost against the Falcons, but that pick was, a key point in that game. And they can't stop the run. Bijan ran all over them last week. Now you got Chuba and Dowdle coming in. That's the Panthers' strength of their offense. So I like the Panthers. Do I like it enough to play it? We'll see. If I can get 3.5, I'll definitely be on the Panthers. But we'll see if I can get the hook there. The hook's pretty key for me on that game. And the Bucks haven't covered in 6 straight weeks. So maybe that means that it's due factor for the Bucks. Usually a team that hasn't covered that many weeks in a row. I don't know if they'd make them this big of a favorite on the road and, have them not cover again. So I lean Carolina, but haven't played it yet. So
do you have before we sign off for this week, do you have a college football play that you really like with the first round of the playoffs starting on Saturday?
Man, I really don't feel super, super strong about any of the games. I'm probably going to play Bama. Don't feel great about it. I just think Bama playing the same team twice. Bama, if you look at the stats, that first OU Bama game, OU outgained them by 100 yards, lost the football game. Bama sneaks into the playoffs, so looked like shit against Georgia. So the public has come off them. The public's actually slightly on OU in this game. So I think there might be a little value on Bama, and these Bama teams in the playoffs usually perform pretty well. I trust the Bama offense more than OU's offense, and think I trust Simpson a little bit more than Mateer. So lean Bama. I like Tulane. Again, they played Ole Miss once this year and got blown out by 35. So now they make this line 17.5, kind of inflated a little bit when it probably shouldn't be this big. We don't know what this team is going to look like without Lane Kiffin at the wheel. So the Fighting Retzlaffs, if I'm saying his name right.
Jake Retzlaff, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of value on Tulane. don't know what to make of the Oregon James Madison. To be honest, I have not watched a ton of James Madison football this year.
How dare you?
I'd probably lean Oregon, but I haven't watched a ton of James Madison. And what's the game? Miami, the best game.
Miami A&M. I'll tell you,
I lean Miami. I lean Miami.
Okay.
And I'm surprised, 3.5 seems like a lot with a team that's full of NFL players and NFL talent across the board. And I think it's going to be a close game. So you're giving me 3.5 points of value there. I lean Miami, but don't feel nearly as strong about any of the college games this week as I do about the NFL games. So
I like, and I agree. I think I line up with you on Bama. I think I prefer A&M here. I think with A&M, their offensive line is so good, and I think that obviously Miami's defensive line is really, really good, but I don't think they've potentially top 5 O-line in the country. This game is in, at College Station, at Kyle Field. Mario Cristobal does not have a good history of, winning big games like this. I don't know that I love Marcel Reed, but I also don't know that I love Carson Beck when he gets pressured.
Right.
And so I think I prefer A&M here. But that hook, it's just an interesting line. That hook could very well come into play. But I think that if I had to make a choice here, I would take A&M. But I do agree with you with Bama. It's so tough for me to take Oklahoma. As good as their defense is, their offense is so bad. And it just, not that Alabama's offense has been really good here recently. Like they've started to struggle a little bit. I don't know if Jam Miller is going to play or not, but I think I prefer Alabama in this spot. It's just tough for me to bet on a team that just struggles so much offensively, even though they're going to be the home team. So I agree with you there. But I'm curious to see if we have any upsets in year 2 of the 12-team playoff. And I guess A&M Miami is a one that could be, but I don't see Tulane or James Madison doing it. So that should be interesting though. We're going to kick it off. I think 11:00 kick from Kyle Field. So right away you get a good game. They're not going to start off with a blowout, which is good because when Packers Bears is going on, you got Oregon James Madison, which is very possibly going to be a blowout and not one that people really lock in on.
I hear you on A&M. I need to do a little bit of a deeper dive on that game before I haven't played anything yet. So before I make any decisions there, but that makes some sense. My Horns, that bowl game, who woke up feeling the cheesiest, the Cheez-It Bowl. Dude, that game is going to be a hilarious game. We have 6 defensive starters that aren't playing in the game, and Michigan's coach is in jail. So this line, I haven't even the line movement is all over the place. I don't know what's going to happen in this game, but I'm interested to see what kind of product on the field we get in the Cheez-It Bowl. So
I've lost so much interest in all bowl games now that not that I was super locked in, but now that they've expanded the playoff, it's just even less interest. I forgot who Texas was even playing, to be honest with you. And someone was talking crap to me about TCU the other day, and I totally forgot that TCU is playing USC in the who cares Alamo Bowl or whatever. But there's a reason to care about those games because you can make money on them. So I'm sure there are people who will try to do so.
Well, if you can get a read on, this is really deep, but if you can get a read on what teams are motivated and then what teams are sitting players before you, if you can figure that out before you see the line movement, you can really get some value in some of these games.
Yeah.
So there is some value to be had and some money to be made, but these bowl games, I'm bitter about the system.
I get it.
Obviously I'm biased, but Texas, I don't think we're a national championship team, but the way the system works, it's just basically telling us we shouldn't play these tough non-conference games because, but you can't lose to Florida and then complain. So
don't get me started. I think, I'm not even a Texas alum. You are biased. I am not. I think Texas should be in, but don't get me started on that. All right, there you go.
Jamie has arrived home, so this is
perfect timing.
Yeah.
So Zach is going with Detroit lane 7, Dallas lane 2, Vegas getting 14.5. I'm going with the Giants getting 3, the Ravens lane 7, the Ravens lane 3, the Eagles lane 7. We went 4-2 collectively last week. Zach carried the load there, going 3-0. Hopefully we can have another 4 or 5, maybe even 6 win weekend. Enjoy the games. We got some fun ones, and we'll talk to you next Thursday. This has been the Betting Booth with Zach Barron and Jared Sandler. So long.